Have you ever stopped to think about what would really happen if heaven and earth collided? No, not in a Hollywood sci-fi kind of way, but in a real spiritual sense. What if I told you that such an event has already happened, several times in fact? According to the Bible, what does it mean when the divine touches the mortal world, and how does that change everything for us? In today's video, we're exploring some of the most incredible moments in the Bible when heaven and earth collided, changing history, faith, and our understanding of God forever. Stay tuned to discover the hidden truths behind these cosmic encounters and their significance for you today. But before we dive in, make sure to hit the subscribe button and join City on a Mountain for more thought-provoking content like this. Now let's get started, defining the collision of heaven and earth. First, what exactly are we talking about when we say heaven and earth collided? In biblical terms, heaven and earth represent two different realms. Heaven is the realm of God, of holiness, perfection, and divine order. Earth, on the other hand, is where we live, a world filled with beauty, but also tainted by imperfection, sin, and suffering. But there are moments in the Bible where these two realms meet. These are powerful divine encounters where God reaches down into the human experience. These aren't just metaphorical. They're literal points in history where the spiritual broke into the physical world, altering the course of events forever. Why should this matter to us today? Because these moments aren't just historical. They have spiritual implications for our lives now and into the future. From the Garden of Eden to the life of Jesus, and even the end of the world as we know it, the collision of heaven and earth reveals God's plan for humanity. The Garden of Eden, the first collision. Let's start at the very beginning with the Garden of Eden. In Genesis, we see the perfect picture of heaven and earth in harmony. God walked with Adam and Eve in the cool of the day. Genesis 3:8. Heaven and earth were united, and humans lived in perfect relationship with God. However, this peace was shattered when Adam and Eve chose to disobey God, bringing sin into the world. This act caused the first rupture between heaven and earth. What had been a seamless connection was now broken. Humanity was cast out of Eden, and heaven and earth were, in a sense, separated. But God didn't leave humanity to fend for itself. Even after the fall, we see God continually working to reconnect with His creation, giving glimpses of heaven touching earth throughout the rest of the Bible. Section 3. Jacob's Ladder, a window into heaven. One of the most vivid examples of heaven and earth intersecting again comes in Genesis 28, with Jacob's dream of a ladder. As Jacob fled from his brother Esau, he lay down to sleep and saw a ladder extending from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending upon it. At the top of the ladder stood God, reaffirming His covenant with Jacob, promising to bless him and his descendants. But what does this ladder symbolize? It shows us that God never fully abandoned the world. The ladder is a bridge, a connection between heaven and earth, reminding Jacob and us that God is always present, even when we feel distant. It's interesting to note that Jacob didn't build the ladder, nor did the angels come up from earth. The ladder descended from heaven, showing that God initiates the connection between the divine and the human. This sets the stage for what would later be the most powerful collision of heaven and earth, the coming of Jesus Christ. The birth of Jesus, heaven, touches earth in human form. In the New Testament, we see the ultimate example of heaven and earth coming together in the birth of Jesus. When Christ was born, heaven literally invaded earth. This wasn't just another divine intervention, it was God Himself stepping into human history. John 1:14 says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." God took on human form in the person of Jesus, and suddenly heaven and earth were united in a new and profound way. Jesus' life was a continuous example of heaven colliding with earth, through His miracles, His teachings, and ultimately His death and resurrection. Take a moment to reflect on this. Every miracle Jesus performed was a moment when heaven touched earth. Whether He was healing the sick, casting out demons, or raising the dead, Jesus was showing us the power of heaven breaking into our broken world. His mission wasn't just about teaching morals. It was about restoring the connection between God and humanity. The crucifixion, the ultimate collision. However, the most intense moment of heaven and earth colliding occurred at the crucifixion. This was more than just the tragic death of a good man. When Jesus was crucified, heaven and earth met in the most dramatic way possible. Matthew 27:51 tells us that at the moment of Jesus' death, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The tearing of the curtain is hugely symbolic. It separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the temple, and it represented the barrier between God and humanity. When Jesus died, that barrier was destroyed. Heaven and earth collided, and through His sacrifice, the gap caused by sin was bridged. This was no ordinary event. It was cosmic in nature. The earth quaked because something profound had just occurred. The way back to God was now open. The resurrection and ascension, heaven's victory on earth. Jesus' resurrection was the ultimate victory of heaven over earth's greatest enemy, death. When Jesus rose from the grave, it wasn't just a miraculous event. It was the signal that heaven had overcome the curse of sin and death on earth. But the collision of heaven and earth didn't stop with the resurrection. After His resurrection, Jesus ascended into heaven, where He now reigns. His ascension is a reminder that heaven and earth are still connected, and that connection will reach its ultimate fulfillment in the future. The new heaven and new earth, the final collision. The Bible tells us that one day, heaven and earth will collide in a final and ultimate way. Revelation 21 paints a picture of a new heaven and a new earth, where God will dwell with humanity forever. The separation caused by sin will be fully erased, and heaven and earth will once again be united in perfect harmony. Revelation 21:3 says, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and He will dwell with them." This is the ultimate collision, where heaven and earth are no longer separate, but are merged into one reality, where God's presence is fully known and experienced by all. This final collision will not be a moment of destruction, but a moment of renewal. The pain, suffering, and death that came from the separation of heaven and earth will be wiped away, and God will make all things new. So, what really happened when heaven and earth collided in the Bible? It's a story of God's love, His relentless pursuit of reconnection with humanity. From the Garden of Eden to the cross, and finally to the promise of a new creation, these moments reveal God's plan to bring heaven and earth together again. If you found this video insightful and want to explore more about the Bible's incredible truths, hit that subscribe button and become part of City on a Mountain. We're dedicated to unpacking biblical mysteries and exploring their relevance in our everyday lives. Don't miss out on future videos and join our community as we continue to explore the intersections of heaven and earth. Thank you for watching, and remember, the collision of heaven and earth might not just be in the Bible. It could be happening in your life right now.